Hello, my name is Preston. I'm here at the Eno River in Durham, North Carolina, investigating Penny's Bend. Penny's Bend is an ecologically and geologically significant area managed by the North Carolina Botanical Garden at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. It's springtime, and I'm beginning to deal with a lot of cool season weeds in my garden. So I'm here at Penny's Bend looking at the vegetation, trying to see if there are any clues it offers to how to control weeds in my garden using native plants. Now, I don't expect to see the same weed species here. Penny's Bend is managed in part by fire, but I do notice that the ground is mostly covered with vegetation here. And I'm seeing a diversity of species with a diversity of strategies for occupying and defending space or crowding out neighbors. One strategy I'm seeing is that some plants have big, broad leaves held close to the ground, like this violet or the lyreleaf sage. And these leaves held close to the ground not only help the plants defend their space, but also shade the ground and may prevent weed seeds from germinating. Though it doesn't have as large a leaf as the violet or the lyreleaf sage, the species of green and gold common to my area forms clumps and spreads around by seed, and eventually these clumps amalgamate into large communities that crowd out weeds and prevent weed seeds from germinating. Back at Penny's Bend, I see grasses and sedges doing this same thing. Just the sheer density of foliage of the crown of the plant, where the plant meets the ground, is enough to prevent weeds from coming up through it. When it comes to covering ground in winter and crowding out weeds, it's hard to beat cool season grasses and sedges. Even warm season grasses who emerge early, like these river oats, do a great job with weed control too. Some of the shorter sedges and grasses allow flowering plants to come up through them. As a companion plant to the shorter species of sedge, I might include some of the more upright Coreopsis, though some species of Coreopsis do a great job at blocking weeds on their own. Like the previous Coreopsis, some plants spread around through something called a stolon. Someone once described a stolon to me like an umbilical cord, this organ that carries water and nutrients from one plant to a clone of itself. You can see how stolons make one of my favorite ground cover plants, the yarrow, so successful with occupying space in the landscape. The stolons allow it to walk its way through the garden and around other plants to really occupy space. Another one of my favorite spring-blooming stoloniferous plants is moss phlox, which doesn't politely walk its way through the garden like yarrow, but rather bulldozes its way through the landscape, occupying space and crowding out neighbors. Moss phlox seems to prefer the hot, dry, sunny areas of my garden, which resembles parts of its natural habitat, scrambling across cliff faces and over gravelly areas. Its short stature allows it to hold on to moisture better, making it very drought resistant, and its ability to send down adventitious roots to meet new soil areas allows it to spread really rapidly. Weeds just simply can't get through it. Looking at some of the wetter areas of Penny's Bend, I see a lot of crested iris, which is an incredibly charismatic plant. This plant not only spreads by stolons, but it also has a rhizome, a storage organ, which helps it survive tough conditions, including the urban environment. But perhaps the most popular ground cover in my garden is the strawberry. Now, this isn't a native plant, but it mingles so well that I can't help but include it. Strawberries are an excellent and resilient choice for a new garden area, especially in full sun. And if you prefer, we have a native strawberry that is just as effective as a ground cover and mingles politely with other plants. The connection between dealing with winter weeds and exploring a natural area like Penny's Bend may not be obvious, but these natural areas carry a whisper of the wild, a clue to the way plants have evolved over time and ways they organize themselves naturally. Based on the strategies a plant uses to occupy and defend its space, you can select species for the garden that occupy special niches or share space peacefully or dominate large areas. Clues to organizing plants in the landscape can be found in the anatomy of the plants themselves, as well as how they naturally behave in wilder places.